Business, the construction industry's innovation and technology show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the AEC Business Podcast, the go-to spot for innovation and technology in architecture, engineering and construction. I'm your host, Aarni Heiskanen, and my guest is Hanna Backman, Chief Commercial Officer at Flow Modules, a Finnish industrialized residential construction company. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Hanna.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Well, what experiences and choices guided you to Flow Modules in your career?
Yeah, so me personally, I'm actually not from the construction industry originally at all. So basically, what I talk about today is basically all the credit of that to the Flow Modules team. I just have the privilege to talk about it, but it's a great thing. So I started in technical communication, then I've done product marketing, some of the technical communication stuff, and different commercial roles. First in electricity distribution, like NIS and GIS systems, then moving on to the BIM world, the construction world, did some class checking software things, and then later scheduling software, and finally bathroom pods. So I've been around, but mostly on the commercial and communication side of things.
Well, I think communications is extremely important in any change in the industry.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you now discuss Flow Modules, what kind of challenges is Flow Modules solving in residential construction?
Right. So Flow Modules we're a small company based in southern Finland, founded in 2016, and we offer prefabricated bathroom pods, some other prefabs, and then the Sitefactory concept that we're going to focus on today. But basically, everything that we do is offering different means to raise the productivity level on residential builds, mainly residential. What we do, so basically, what we think is that there will be a raising need for increasing the productivity, and there will be a raising need for new apartments in the market. And for that, we need to do it better. And better basically means to do it more efficiently and in better quality. And basically our share of this is to combine the prefabs, so mainly the bathroom, but some other pre-assemblies or prefabricated elements that we provide sort of on the side of the bathroom pod. And then also looking at making the assembly process of the pre-assemblies as efficient as possible. And this, we believe, will create the most value because we're eliminating waste. There's a lot of waste on construction sites nowadays, in terms of like time when nothing happens and the build is just there, basically empty, or like excess materials. And by using prefabs, we're getting rid of that. And then we're also shortening the lead time, really as a combination of the prefabs and the better process. Maybe that's in brief. I'll come back to those things later.
Yeah, very good. You hosted a webinar in April, which was, by the way, really good, explaining how to complete the interior finishes of a 61 apartment construction site in 4 weeks with tact, scheduling and production. For those of our audience who need to become more familiar with tact, can you explain how it differs from traditional construction scheduling?
Yeah, right. So tact production is nothing new, right? It's been talked about globally, I believe, for quite a while. I think where we lack is still how to actually put that in practice. And I think, let's first say in brief, tact production could be defined as chopping the works into small work packages or small entities that have an equal length, and then repeating them on tact zones that are about of the same size. So basically, you simplify things by making small entities and then repeating them in a sequential way. Maybe that's one way. There's tons of material in tact production if it is new. But then maybe an interesting viewpoint to it is that today, when people talk about tact production, they can mean very different things. So typically, or sometimes you say that, yes, we're doing tact production, and you mean, for example, that you're doing a weekly tact, or your tact time is 1 week, and your tact zone is 1 floor of a residential building. Which is great. I mean, it's usually the first step that you kind of like, because it's a process when you start doing this to kind of evolve and learn as a company, for example, or as a team to do it. But with the weekly tact, what may happen is that it kind of gives you some slack. So you can, sort of plan that, okay, these works we'll do in this floor during this week, but then nothing happens on Monday. And then also you had plans for Tuesday, but that somehow didn't work out. So then you end up rushing on Thursday and Friday, and then you kind of save that week, and then you're back on track on the following Monday. So you're kind of like doing it in a sequential way, but maybe how our concept looks at it a little differently is that we most typically we do a 4-hour tact, and the tact area would be 1 apartment. So it's like much smaller units that we work with, and the pace is faster, but it doesn't mean that there's rush. It's just more organized and more pre-planned,
more condensed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's 4 hours is good. I just read, or actually wrote an article about cruise ship cabin production. The tech time is 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So every 15 minutes, 1 cabin comes out.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but let's say that we're maybe like working towards that. So we have started, and if we start working with a new customer, and for us, customer in this case would typically be a general contractor. If we're new to them, then maybe we want to start with an 8-hour tact. And that's what we've done before. But then quite quickly, you start to see that if you actually go down to 4 hours, then it gets like so much more efficient. And that's still quite doable. It's not like it doesn't have to be as detailed as, for example, 15 minutes. And now we're starting to work on 2-hour tact with a lot of our customers. So it's also like, basically progress and learning together. So not just with the Sitefactory, but also with the customers, which is great. It's how it should be. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, you mentioned Sitefactory already. What is it used for, and how is it used for? What does it consist of?
Right. So basically, it's a concept. It's still a rather new concept, so it's still evolving. But right now, the shape that it's taken, it basically consists of 3 things. First one would be that we basically we have standardized the work packages. So basically, each tact or each work package, or wagons, you sometimes call them, would be a specific one consisting of specific tasks. And we've named them and basically given them color codes as well. So it's quite a standard thing. And then we train the workers, our workers, into each work package. So every worker has a skill. They're basically certified for that given work package. And when they come to the site to do their work, basically their work package, their tact, they know exactly what to do from one side to the other. Of course, then there will be some balancing between the wagons, but that's sort of like a fine-tuning then. Right. So basically what those works would be, right now we're focused on the interior finishing phase of a residential apartment building. So basically, we go from floor smoothing, then flooring, skirting boards, permanent fixtures, cabinets, appliances, or the equipment like dishwashers, stoves, then the apartment doors, cleaning and finishing. And we also handle the on-site logistics. So that's one thing. Then another quite cool thing, and something that really came from basically customer needs, is that instead of like selling this as a black box that you basically buy the interior finishes and then we come and do it, instead of that, we provide the workers and they know their stuff, but then we also provide the site manager of the general contractor basically with all the tools and basically structure and templates that they need for basically making the TAC production plan. So the scheduling, the material logistics, all the planning that needs to go beforehand, and then materials for example, the daily management. And this then enables the site management really to work sort of in the concept, so that they're not doing something else that what the workers kind of have been trained to do. And for that, we provide coaching for any site manager that is new to the concept. So it's not like we just throw our workers onto the site, which happens in a lot of projects, and then they kind of figure out what to do and how to do it. But instead, we've like really made it clear and pre-planned for everybody. And then the third one would be actually then carrying out the work. So basically you've planned everything beforehand. You have the workers, they know what to do. And then the train, that the TAC train just basically like flows through the site, and it's actually really fast. And by that, we were basically able to fully finish apartments. So there's no like some trims missing there or, some parts missing here, but it's fully finished. And we close the door, we seal the door, so that nobody goes in until it's approved and taken. Basically, then after the handover given away. So it really raises the quality, but also really shortens the lead time of the whole project, not just the interior finishing phase, which can be dramatically shortened, but then that has an impact also for the whole project. And that's where the biggest benefits come from.
Yeah, and I also imagine that you have to involve logistics in this process.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big part and a really important part. And of course, for that, there's the on-site logistics, and then there's the logistics to the site, right? And definitely here we work with the site management of the general contractor to kind of help them understand the level of detail that you need to plan all of that. And we go into I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Finland we're quite used to sort of having like a broad idea of this is how it's going to go and this is when we need stuff, and then it arrives at some point. But instead here we actually go to the level of calculating each apartment and how many packages of laminate flooring, for example, is needed in that apartment. And because of the TAC scheduling, because flooring would be one work package, we would know exactly that those packages, say 15 or 20, however, whatever number is needed in that apartment at that specific time. And quite importantly, also, we separate the works from the on-site logistics. So we're going to have specific people taking care of the on-site logistics from whether it be like just-in-time deliveries or whether it be some on-site warehouse or storage, if that's possible. But this we kind of need to then work within each project, because it depends on how much space there is, if there is chance for storage or if there is a chance for just-in-time deliveries. That depends a little bit on the supply chain too, which is another thing. Yeah, but it's a super important thing, because then when you're doing, even if it's a 4-hour tact, which is not even the tightest, but it's super important that the floor is there, that it can be carried to the apartment, that before the tact, before the flooring tact starts. If it's not there, then the whole train is gonna collapse basically, or there's gonna be problems, and that's gonna cost money. So it's a super important topic. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you said that this is a learning process,
Mm.
but what have been the biggest challenges in developing and implementing this Sitefactory?
Yeah. So maybe here I would kind of separate the problems that you face on site, like the daily problems, which there are always going to be problems, no matter what construction project you have. There are always going to be problems, and how we sort of do this in our concept is that the site management actually needs to be on the site, like on the build, every day. They're no longer in the site management office, but they're actually like among the workers. And we really want the daily management, and we want there to be daily tact meetings on the site with everybody. So you're basically constantly on top of whether there are problems and what problems there are, and then immediately solving them. And this really, like, it kind of changes the pace of things, and you really look at changing things right now, or changing them, doing better tomorrow, not in the next project. And that definitely has an impact on the productivity as well. But then maybe in a larger picture, sort of challenges in developing our concept, and basically like bringing our concepts to the sites. Maybe one thing to mention is that often when we think about tact production, we kind of think that it's something that happens on the construction site. But instead, and we already mentioned logistics, so instead it's actually something that needs to be considered, and something that leads to a change in a much, much broader picture. So it's not just about the construction sites, organizing them differently. It goes as far as the planning and the designing, kind of the material choices you make, or the kind of appliances that you bring in. Are there going to be the kinds that are easy to install, or can be like, for example, the kitchen, appliances that you put in? Are you going to need a plumber at every time, or to be able to like plugging things, and then you have to close and open some outlets or whatnot? Or is it going to be a model that one sort of one work package can come first, and the second can follow? If you understand what I mean by that. And then definitely procurement needs to be sort of involved in this, because that's where all of the sort of the materials, that's where it starts, right? So basically the procurement department of the general contractor, if it's them doing the materials, which is actually what we recommend now, that you no longer get the materials through the subcontractors, but rather, do it yourself. If you're a general contractor, then that's going to bring you more benefit. But then the procurement department needs to also understand the ideology of the tact production, and they need to understand that the sort of cost is one thing, but then the just-in-time deliveries are quite an important one too. And that should go into kind of like selecting your suppliers, who's going to be able to work with the tact production methodology, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you actually already answered my next question about what kind of changes in attitudes and behavior you need. But maybe how have people reacted to this new model?
Yeah. I mean, I guess as always, when there is a change, some people are going to embrace it easily and, with open arms, and then some might struggle a little bit. Of course, it's also a different type of a change. for different roles, I would say. So we mentioned like planning and procurement, or the purchasing, but then for example, also what we actually do, what I didn't mention maybe before, is that with the Sitefactory concept, we change the typical subcontracting model, how works are carried out. We change that into actually using hourly workers. So, which has been something that, site managers aren't even maybe allowed to do or haven't been in the past. And now we're maybe going back to like, that was actually smart, because you lose a lot of the productivity in the various subcontractors. Like my favorite example would be that sometimes you could have on a residential site, you could have a separate subcontractor for curtain rails. So basically the rail that you put above the window, and, a separate subcontractor comes in, provides the materials. So basically the rails, and then goes around the building and, puts them on. And when we changed that into or took that into our concept, we were basically, because it's such a fast task, basically. So we were able to fit that into the 4-hour takt of our equipment wagon. So basically the work for it became free because there was time for it already. And then the materials would be directly purchased by the general contractor, so that there's no middleman sort of taking. So in the end, it becomes like so much cheaper and so much more efficient and straightforward, I suppose. But then, of course, that leads to the fact that not all subcontractors like us. And I understand it. The guys selling the curtain rails and their installation are not going to be happy because we just took their business away. So it is, in the sense, and of course, our meaning here is not to do bad things, but instead to do good. But it's kind of something that then evidently comes with it, that you change. Basically, you change how the world builds as a result of this. So basically, there's been a lot of talk about systemic change. Well, this is the systemic change, or a part of it. So it's really like bringing a new way of doing everything in a project. So basically, how you purchase materials, how you get them delivered, when you get them delivered, how you handle the on-site logistics, and then how you actually carry out the works. And then for the site managers themselves, that the change really means that you're no longer, because right now a lot of the site managers, their sort of daily tasks would be managing the contracts, not the people, but the contracts, and kind of looking at whether it was done what it said there. And now we're changing it so that the site managers, actually their day is spent on managing people and their work present on the site. So it's a really big change for them as well. And of course, there's going to be a learning curve. And also what you need to do is then put a lot more effort into planning everything in much more detail. So it really does change this, and we do understand that it's a big change for the site managers, and that's where the coaching part of our concept really comes into play, because it's not like we just throw this at them and tell them to survive, but instead we basically provide some materials, but then a lot of sort of coaching and learning within an actual project. So you're basically like learning by doing, but you're not alone in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You already talked about Sitefactory for residential construction. Is it feasible solution for other types of projects as well?
It is a short answer. So basically now, since we are just at the beginning, we have focused on residential new builds. But of course, kind of any project that comes with a lot of repetition would be feasible. For example, hotels will probably come into play, and then we'll see what else. But the way we look at it also is that we first want to learn to do this one thing well, and then we'll look at expanding. But definitely, it's doable, and probably helps a lot in kind of any type of project with a lot of repetition. Yeah.
Hmm. Um, well, talking about a little bit about the future, I understand that, as you said, you're constantly developing and learning. But how do you see the future of your company and maybe also the industry? How the industry will be industrialized, so to speak?
Mm. Yeah, I think industrializing construction is sort of unavoidable for the whole industry. Um, so there's well, right now, especially in Finland, the market is quite down. I understand it's a little bit better sort of globally, but yet sort of from the hard times comes the pressure for improving productivity, right? But then also on the other hand, if you look at the how the urbanization is going to continue in the world, there's also going to be pressure for productivity from there, and also from the market starts to go up, then we're suddenly going to be in the rush of producing all these apartments that because people are going to need housing. So in the end, I think we're definitely inevitably in a situation where we need to improve how the world builds, because there will be some players who are able to do it, and they will pull through this, and they will come out as market leaders probably. And then there will be others who kind of want to continue in the old way, which is, it's been said many times also that construction industry needs more productivity and needs to change the old ways of working. And I think now we've reached the point where it's really it's kind of pushed on us. We must do it.
Hmm. Do you have any plans for extending your business outside Finland?
A little bit. So for Sitefactory, I think what we've seen is just the prologue, basically. So it's the very beginning of something great. So first we had pilot projects. Now we're growing first in southern Finland and kind of looking elsewhere in Finland already. With a number of projects, and then we are definitely looking to expand. What the timeline for that might be, let's see. But yeah, we're not out here to change how Finland builds. We're definitely out here to change how the world builds. Maybe I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, finally, how can our listeners learn more about Sitefactory and perhaps contact you also directly?
Yeah, so you can definitely visit our website at flowmodules.com/sitefactory, or if you just go to flowmodules.com, you'll find some things on Sitefactory in English as well. Our site right now, a lot of it is in Finnish, but you'll find the sort of the basic things. You'll definitely also find ways to contact us, either myself or some other people from our team. So definitely, if you have thoughts, if you feel like there might be good chance for collaboration, learning together, and expanding, then definitely do contact us. And you can definitely contact me as well directly at hanna.backman@flowmodules.com. So just email or give me a call. My phone number is on the web as well.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, is the webinar still available for those who didn't attend it live?
It is. It is. You can also find it from our website. There's a link to it. It was co-hosted with SiteDrive, which is the scheduling software that we also use for Sitefactory. It's our subsidiary company. Quite good software too. But it's in their YouTube, but you can find a link to it from our website as well. Yeah.
Well, Hanna, this has been really interesting, and I'm looking forward to your next projects and the next webinar, hopefully.
Oh, thank you. We'll definitely make some noise. Just stay tuned.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to this podcast and visit aec-business.com, the award-winning blog, for more news and stories.